What's up, guys and gals, and welcome to this week's episode of Weekly Indie Newcomer. My name is Splattercat, and I am happy to be your host as we take a look at a new indie game which was sent to me this week. It's by Arcen Games, and it's called The Last Federation. Now, if you don't know what Weekly Indie Newcomer is, it's my Friday series where I take a look and briefly review and do a first impressions video of an indie game that I've been playing or I've been exposed to over the last week or so. The Last Federation released, I think 2 weeks ago. I hadn't had a chance to cover it just because other things kept bouncing around, but it's one of those games by Arcen. And so if you're familiar with Arcen, I covered one of those games. I think I've covered a couple other games, in fact. But anyways, Arcen Games is a studio where one thing you can say about them is they never make anything cliched. Everything that Arcen always produces is very, very unique, for better or worse. And The Last Federation, I'm happy to say, is definitely for better. What is The Last Federation? Let's talk about the general theme of the game. The Last Federation is a game in which you play the last member of a dying race who has taken upon himself to use his superior technology to gift like faster than light travel and other kind of intergalactic technologies to a group of species that are all gathered in this little solar system that the game randomly generates for you each time that you play. Now, as you give this technology out, these races head to space and they all start to interact with one another, which leads to political issues. And then from there, your goal as the last member of this dying race is to create a UN. That's going to be your legacy, is you want to create an intergalactic federation that makes sure that everybody's safe and taken care of. And there's all kinds of sneaky and underhanded ways that you can deal with people that refuse to get in the federation. You can exterminate them, you can coerce other groups to fight against them and wipe them out, you can join sides with other factions to start wars and do all kinds of destructive things. But basically, the sky is the limit when it comes to the tactics you can employ in order to get things to go your way. Now, every single faction has their own mentality. Some of them are based on a republic, some of them are based on just kind of, some of them are dictatorial, some of them basically are tribal. It just kind of depends, and you have to deal with each faction in a different way. They're all going to have dispositions that make them hate other factions just innately and make it more difficult for them to join sides. But let's jump on into the game, because without further ado, this is one of those games that I can almost guarantee you in the next 20 minutes I'm not going to do it enough justice, but I'm going to try and cover as many points as I can in the first opening of a game to where you can get a feel for it and decide if this is the kind of game for you. This is definitely 4X on the next level, so we're going to go for advanced start. We're going to skip the tutorials and everything because I'm pretty sure that I know how the game works at this point. We're going to, permadeath not going to matter, we're not going to get that far. We're going to click OK, and I'm actually not going to do the storyline portion right here because I've already basically explained how it goes. Your race has been wiped out, and now you as the last member of this starfaring race must give the technology out to others and make sure that they get along peacefully, and if they don't, we exterminate them to the man. And so this is the combat system. It very intelligently starts you out with the combat because it wants to get you hooked on the game. Now, our goal right now is to destroy all flagships or dock with a survey platform, which is right here. This is our ship, and so it's pretty badass. It's got LEDs on it. We like to keep it real in the space hood, make sure that everything's underlit and looking nice and fine. We've got 24-inch spinners on it too, in case you were wondering. But anyways, let's go ahead and get moving. The game is going to spawn enemies on us. So here's the enemy that is zoned in to fight with us. We've got ourselves an SRS Blitz, which is from the Skylaxians. The Skylaxians are a race that only respond to, they're capitalists. They're space capitalists who only care about money. They only care about the corporation. Everybody is part of the corporation in their race. And so if you do not benefit the corporation, they're probably not going to like you. They are all about profits. That's all that they care about. 100% is the bottom line. So we've got a couple of Claymores here and a couple of SRS Hurricanes. Now, how the combat works is on the first phase, it's divided into phases. So the first phase, you're going to move, and so there it is. I've told my ship to move to this point right here, and then you get to choose an action. We can fire at selected ships as we make the move action. We can fire at an exact point as we make the move action. We can hold fire, which is what I'm going to do, and then we will just move on out to there. And so having moved into range, you can see that they're already starting to fire at us with these little syringe-looking missiles. They don't hurt you that much. I know the game gives the impression of a bullet hell when you're in combat, but what we're going to do is we're going to veer off this way, and we're going to start by opening fire with our energy blaster. We've got 3 guns. We've got a minigun, we've got an energy blaster, and we've got a gravity lance. These 3 right here, if you're watching my clicker, we get to pick between them. The energy blaster, amazing against shields. It totally tears that thing up and gets it out of the way. Miniguns are good against small vehicles, and then the gravity lance is fantastic for larger flagships that have armored hulls because it just rips straight through them. With our gun, we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch from hold fire to fire at selected ships, and as we advance over here, we're going to fire at that ship right there. There it's going, and you can see that we've done damage. He is wiped out already. This little pod that he's dropped is going to be a captive. You can take prisoners if you fly over them, and so we're going to do that right there. We've rescued 3 Skylaxian pirates. We can use those, our pilots, we can use those later. We can either ransom them back, we can put them on Al Jazeera, we can act like a fool, we can sell them as slaves in other places that value slaves from Skylaxians. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff with the people you capture, so you don't necessarily have to be a good guy. You can definitely be a bad guy and force everyone to join your side through all kinds of terrible means. I'm going to go and destroy the flagship so that you guys can get a feel for how the combat works. And so I'm going to open fire on his shields as we come down here. You don't want to get hit by these torpedoes. They are absolutely terrible. The other thing that we can do in our first turn right here, before we make a movement action, is we can deploy a super move. That's right, you've got super awesome Kamehameha-esque abilities, like, let's see here, we've got Operation Sharpshooter, which gives you a protective blast that destroys all incoming shots, and deploys 6 sharpshooter ships as an escort. You can do Operation Zero, which gives you 60 interceptors, which are little fighter craft. Let's do that so you guys can see. There it is, so we've deployed 60 fighter craft. That doesn't look like 60 to me. That looks more like 12 or so. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, we lose our turn if we do that. But these little guys are now all on our side, and they will all fight to the death for us. I'm going to try and wipe out his shields on this turn. His shields are now down. At the end of each turn, it's going to show you the damage synopsis that you've done. And so I'm going to make a move, and then we're going to use a Gravity Lance to try and wipe him out. And what you'll see is the Gravity Lance does a ton of damage because these are flagships. On this side, I'm going to go ahead and open up with my... There it is. See if I can't get rid of his shields on this turn. Shields are now down. And so with our movement, I'm going to use the Gravity Lance right here, and we're going to wipe him out. And so being destroyed, that's going to end the combat. We're going to get on out of here, and we're going to talk about some of the things you can do on the world map, because obviously we are 100% not going to have enough time to hit everything in this video. I don't think with 20 videos I could hit everything that there is beginning, middle, and end game to this game. So be aware that if you're looking for an in-depth game, this is the one that you've been looking for. An in-depth space game where you're just one guy, you don't have to manage your own armies or anything. You're basically just fiddling with other people and forcing them to do the stuff that you want. This is the solar system map, and so taking a look around, you're going to see a lot of numbers. There's a lot of bumps and hooks and knobs out there that are definitely going to confuse you the first time you play through. One thing I will say is that the game does give you an incredible tutorial, as in you can play almost like a 2 to 3 hour tutorial where you basically play almost an entire map with the game just kind of holding your hand and going, alright, click on this now. Look at this thing you can do. Isn't that awesome? Look at this thing that you can tell this guy to do that will be used on this faction over here that will then do this. And so you can kind of put one toe in the water as slowly as you want. But I'm going to try and give you a synopsis here. The important information under every planet is this. These 3 numbers right here. So when you first start the game out, influence. Influence is the #1 thing that you want with every faction. Influence is how much they take into account your opinion. And so if this number is like 40 or 50 in the positive, they really care about your opinion. Now, right now, you'll notice that everybody's negative. That's not necessarily a bad thing because we're not that negative with everybody. It just simply means that they don't know who we are. So obviously, they don't have any influence with us, and we don't have any influence with them. They are unaware of us at the moment. Now, these guys right here were under 100. That's because they're aware of us, and we just wiped out a bunch of their flagships trying to escape from their jail. That's what the storyline said. We were in jail on this planet. So the chances of this faction ever liking us, probably not going to happen. The Skylaxians, not feeling us. Actually, are the Skylaxians? Oh, no. The Skylaxians, I've actually got this wrong. So the game randomly generates. I forgot with the advanced start. With the advanced start, it picks a random race that you escape from. I forgot about that. So the Skylaxians are a democratic race. So this would actually be a really, really hard way to start out, because the Skylaxians have all the tools that you would need to convince everybody else to join you peaceably. They also have a pretty killer military, and they've got a running head start on the space race with everybody. I thought that the Skylaxians were, let's see here, the Acutians. So the last 5 or 6 games I've played, I've started with the Acutians as my captors. So the Acutians are the corporate guys that I was talking about. The Skylaxians are democratic, and so they've got kind of an... Well, not necessarily, they're kind of a republic, I guess. I don't know, they're somewhere in between. They're like a democratic republic or something. They vote on everything, they have representatives. And so these guys, it's actually really bad that we're not friends with them, because that means we're gonna have to do a whole lot of just dirty work to get everybody to join us, because these guys have all the diplomatic tools. But anyways, influence. These guys absolutely hate us because we're minus 100. It's gonna be really, really hard to recover. They're basically our antagonists during the course of this playthrough. The next number is the compatibility of the people that live on this planet with their homeworld. So basically, these guys, really, their homeworld is not that hospitable for them based on the biological needs that they have, which means they're going to have health problems. They're going to have all kinds of problems just doing everything on this planet. Their population is not going to grow very well. Their population is going to have trouble building cities. It's going to be ugly. This final number right here is the relative time, in-game time, until they develop space technology and are able to take out to the stars. Now, part of the early portion of the game is deciding who your allies are going to be, because anybody that you give space technology to in the early part of the game is going to instantly love you. That's just hands down. They love you. However, as you give the technology to more more and more people, the people that you've given it to in the first place are going to get angry because now they're actually vying for valuable real estate with all these other people in the galaxy who initially were not competition because they could not get into space. And so we want to take a look around. We've got the Andors. The Andors are okay. The Peltians are rubes. These guys are super stupid. They go with whatever you tell them, and so they can be a good world to unlock first. They're unlikely to betray you. They're very easy to coerce. They're very easily to kowtow. They're very easily to force into a situation that they don't want to be in. They're basically ultimate cowards. They're very, very easy to defeat, but on top of that, if you ally with them as part of your federation, all of the warlike races that are kind of like the Klingons, where they really respect valor and honor and bravery, all of those races are going to hate you. So one of those races that I would point out are going to be... I don't think the Borines are them. I think... Evux, no, the Evux are not them. The Burlust, there we go. The Burlust are a tribal race who hate anybody that's weak. And so let's say that you ally with the Peltians as your first ally in your intergalactic federation. Well, the Burlust are going to hate you. I believe the Evuk are fairly starfaring as well and kind of violent. The Acutians are pretty violent. The Borines, the Borines are hard-headed, but they're not necessarily violent. The Thoraxians, very violent. So basically the Thoraxians are going to hate you. The Burlust are going to be like, what the hell if you ally with them. But first things first, let's go ahead and give somebody some starfaring technology. Because the democratic people of Skylaxia over here are already starfaring, we want to make sure that since they hate us, what we really, really want is we want a faction on our side with an amazing military. Now, on this side right here, we find that the Burlusts are very, very in tune with their own planet, which means they are going to be incredibly fast. They're going to breed very, very quickly. They're going to have starships very fast. They're going to have an amazing military. Let's go with the Burlust first. And so going to the Burlust homeworld, we have only one option right now. We can do a friendly intervention of giving them spacefaring tech. We gain 5,000 credit, which is basically money. The intergalactic credits that you're going to use are going to allow you to buy all kinds of random stuff as you fly around. So let's go ahead and free them from their Terran prison. And so we take the action, and what we have to do in order to give them the spaceflight technology is we have to run all of their blockades. And so zooming out here, what you will find is that we have to avoid these little blockades here. So let's get moving. And they aren't aware of us right now. We have to reach the drop zone to make the delivery of the space technology because they have their initial... They don't know who we are, basically, so all of their defenses are going to fire on us as we try and land. But once we do land and give them the technology, they're going to be like, oh, that's totally awesome of you. We totally apologize for being such dicks and firing missiles at you and trying to implode you. And so there it is. All we have to do is land in this little green zone and we win. And because this is the first place that we've delivered this technology to, they don't have many defenses. As we deliver this technology to more and more planets, there's going to be more and more defenses, so don't think that this is the way it's going to go. Had this been like the 5th planet that we had given technology to, we would be boned. And so in... Okay, so the Burlust Warlords are now spacefaring. We got 5,000 credit, we got 50 influence with them, which means we are now liked, which means we have some kind of credit with them. And if we go to Orvar, we can click on the planet, and these are now all the options we can do. Look at that. We can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and this game is very much about balancing the amount of time you spend doing something versus what you get out of it. And so some of the options we have right here are we can improve the local environment, and each one of these options gives you a huge range of just things that are going to happen throughout the galaxy or just on this planet as you do it. You can also give an amount of time that you want to help them with this project. Now the benefit of, let me talk about this for a second. So now you'll see that this planet, we are aware of a whole bunch of different things. We have their economic situation, which is bad. We have their medical situation, which is bad. We have their environmental situation, which is pretty damn terrible. We have their public order, which is mediocre. It's pretty good because they're a military power. You would expect them to do okay. These little pips right here that you see, these are actually their armadas that they have flying around. We also have the effectiveness of the soldiers on the planet. And so this number right here dictates how great they are at fighting on land-based operations. We have the armadas that they have deployed. So they have 402 armadas applied to space now. They basically dedicated to that altogether. Or I'm sorry, it's a numerical, I got this wrong. This is their armada. So they have 3 armadas, 1, 2, and 3. How cute. We could wipe them out easily by ourselves if we wanted to right this instant. In fact, we could put a pretty good dent in the Skylaxians right now if we wanted to. We could basically remove them from the galactic stage right now if we wanted to kind of cut the Hydra off at the head. This is our destroyed homeworld that they blew up right here. It doesn't matter for anything other than just we look at it every now and again and we were like, oh, those Hydraulians PlayStations that we had were so awesome, and now they are extinct. We no longer have a Hydraulians PlayStation. It's lame. It's lame. And now we have to occupy ourselves. It's like when you get rid of the video game consoles, it actually frees up your time to do things like unify the galaxy. They've got 3 armadas that are very, very strong. So that 402 power, by contrast, the Skylaxians who hate us have 2 armadas, but their combined power is only 152. So not only do we have more armadas here on Burlust, well, we don't have them, the Burlustians have them. We have no control over these armadas. If we wanted to, we could do a whole bunch of diplomatic missions to see if we could get them to attack them. And so their armadas would test off against them, they would blockade the planet and wipe them out. But for right now, you gotta think about the fact that none of the units you have in this game are actually yours. They belong to other independent planets, and so now you're gonna have to use diplomacy in order to get the things done that you want. At the top of the screen, you'll see that we have a couple of missions here. X42R wants terraforming specs, and the Thoraxan military also has a proposal for us. We can only pick one of these. We can't pick the other. We have to pick one but not the other, and picking one will make one group super happy with us, and not picking the other will make the other group really, really unhappy with us. Now, the Andorians, as I know, because there's a little bit of metagame right here, as you learn the game, you'll kind of learn how things play out over time. Not necessarily every time, but certain races tend to get along more than others. The Andorians almost always get along with the Skylaxians. I mean, the Andorians, I believe, are they're humanists. So the Andorians are all about doing things that benefit other people. If you do evil shit, the Andorians are going to hate the hell out of you. If you do nice stuff all the time, the Andorians are going to love you. And so the Andorians could swing either way, but in my experience, the Andorians tend to go with the Skylaxians because being democratic and being kind of Republican democratic, they tend to give away a lot of technology, and they tend to do a lot of humanitarian work because they're more advanced than everybody else. They tend to give a lot of stuff away, which is going to automatically raise their reputation with the humanist factions. So they tend to get along with Andorians, unless you can make them look bad. So for example, you can go to their planet and you can hire people. So let's go to Lugos and I'll show you. So we can go to Lugos, and what we can do here is, and Lugos, well, I don't see the option, but what we can do here is I think we can, there's an option here somewhere. Here it is, friendly acts and hostile acts. If we go to hostile acts, we're gonna skip that, that's a little bit of tutorial. We can recruit an informant on this planet. What that informant will do is he will feed us information for more hostile actions. Now what we can then do is we can plant information and we can plant propaganda that will make them look bad to another race. So let's say that we wanted to make them look terrible with the Andorians. We haven't unlocked the Andorians yet because we haven't gone to their planet and made them spacefaring. But let's say that we really, really, really want to make the Andorians hate this guy. We could spend 2 years just on their planet planting evidence and creating a case that would make this other race just absolutely hate this one and lower the likelihood that that race would ever ally with this one. And so we can go about kind of isolating them if we really, really wanted to. And it's really kind of crazy the way the intricacies of this game come together. And so for now, I think the intelligent option is going to be to attack Lugos. Let's go to Lugos. We're already here. We're going to take a hostile act, and we are going to, actually no, the best option we can do, let's fly back to Orvar. And what we want to do now is let's help them. We could destroy a pirate base, which make them like us a lot. It'll give us a bunch of money, and it'll lower the chance that pirates will come in and mess with their economy. Everybody will like it that we've wiped it out, too. The other thing that we could consider doing is there's another option here. We can help them raid. I don't know if it's under... No, we can't do that right there. Let's go ahead. We may not have the option right here because they have armadas all around, but what you can do is sometimes you can raid the caravans and you can raid the traders of other people. We can attack the Skylaxian Senate, which would be a really, really major... That would be a dick move right there. We're trying to wipe out all their officials. I think instead what I might do is let's make the Andorians spacefaring. And so the Burlusts are going to, if caught by the Burlusts, they aren't going to like us very much. That's going to drop us down to a neutral territory with them, but I think I can clear it up if we get caught, though. That's if we get caught by Burlust. So let's take a look here. Burlust has put there's a sky probe that belongs to the Skylaxians, and as you can see, there's a lot more of them this time. So what we want to look out for... Skylaxians and Burlust. So I don't care about anyone catching me aside from Burlust. So let's go ahead and see if we can avoid Burlust here. And we're going to go all the way around these scanners. And I don't care if I trip the scanners for the Skylaxians. Screw those guys anyways. They're douchebags. And so flying around here. Oh, the other thing I might mention is that you can reallocate the power for your ship too. So you see these 3 bars over here? These are shields, engines, and firepower. And you can reallocate any of these pips to a different column if you want. So let's say you need to be really agile, you could actually reallocate some of this to be even more agile, or you can make your guns have a further range. And so now we're going to trigger the Skylaxians, who are not going to be pleased about this, but then if we run through their territory, we've got a straight shot. I'm actually going to lower some of this. Let's go ahead and, no, let's go all in for our engines right now. And you can see right there, our movement line got way, way longer. And so I don't think the Burlusts caught us. We should be okay here, but we'll find out in the end game synopsis. Let's go ahead and land in the drop zone. There it is. And so we jettison the technical documents. Hopefully that went okay. Okay, so we didn't get caught by the Burlusts. Simultaneously, the Skylaxians caught us. Who cares? They hate us so much right now that we could never fix that anyways. And if we did, it would take us years and years and years to fix our problem. We're just going to treat them as the bad guys for now. And so basically we're going to think about it. If you wanted to make a correlation, we are Gaul and they are Rome. That's basically the way we want to do it, because they have a Senate. They are really interested in expanding out, making friends with everybody, and if not, they'll wipe you out. Believe me, these guys will roll out on you super hard if you don't come around to their way of thinking. They will annihilate you. So we have the Burlusts. We're going to use them as our peacekeepers for now. We're going to use the Burlust as our muscle. We're going to use the Andorians as our researchers. What's that? There's research in this game? Yes, indeed, there is. If we take a look at varying things right here, because we're running out of time, tech progress, these are all the technologies in the game that you can research. Every single faction in the game is researching technologies right now. We by ourselves cannot research technologies. What we can do is we can enter into research grants with planets that are friendly to us, and in return for us helping them research things, they will give us a copy when they're done. Now, these different technologies do very different things. Typically, they tend to help out on the planets that they're deployed. However, some of these give us passive boosts to our player spaceship, and so those are the ones that we want to look out for. So things like the gluon computers right here will give us a 1.2 boost to attack. Or I'm sorry, no, they'll give us a 1.2, 1.1 boost to health and shields. So these are the things you want to look out for. Helping people research other stuff, and not a big deal, other than the fact that they give you a copy of the technology that you can give away to other planets in order to increase your reputation with them. So these technologies don't do anything for me personally, but I can give them away to other people once I've researched them in order to increase my, it's for FaceTime, I guess, in order to stop stammering here. But these ones up here actually make me better in combat. So these are the ones I want to look out for, because obviously you're going to be fighting with people as the game goes down the line. So the technologies, if you wanted to get technologies, there's a couple ways to get those. We could fly to the Skylaxian homeworld. We could say hostile acts. We can recruit an informant, in which that's what we're going to do. So we recruit an informant. Now we have an informant who's down here spying for us on the Skylaxian homeworld. We can raid for technology. So you see all these right here. If we wanted technologies, we could totally raid them, and we could grab these and we could give them to our allies, so that our allies have all the technology that our enemies do, and then we could enter into research grants with all of the enemies that we have around. Now I understand we're not really able to cover everything here, but what I'd like to do is kind of go briefly along the hostile actions and just talk about what they do. So, attack local armadas on your own. If I do this, this is going to weaken their armadas. So if we close this down, it's going to destroy these armadas, and by contrast, oh my god, the Andor are so powerful. They have 4 armadas, each that are 1,600 in strength. Oh my god. These guys could single-handedly wipe out both these factions together without even having to try. Just based on the fact that their 4 armadas each have an attack power of 400, whereas their 2 armadas only have an attack power of 75, and the Burlust only have an attack power of about 150 per, I mean a little under 150, about 130 or so. So the Andorians are going to be who we really want to work with right now, and that just like that, you can see how your focus changes. We thought the Burlusts, I know that they typically are very, very warlike, and so I wanted to give them technology to safeguard me against the Skylaxians. What we find out is later on down the line there's an even better faction, and so the Humanists in this game are, I think they're probably going to be dictating policy for the majority of the game. Now if I want to do hostile acts, let's talk about those. We can, those are friendly acts, I don't want to do those. Hostile acts, we can raid for technology. They have all these technologies available for stealing, and they do all kinds of various things. This one, if you give it to somebody, allows their public order to go up every 9 solar months. If you give them mind reading, it allows them to double the intensity of their positive public order trends, which we dictate. We would go to the planet and we would say, hey, we think you need to work on your public order. They would say, okay, that's a public order trend. They have wireless communications. It halves the severity of negative public order trends. The lab-grown meat, it's going to give us the ability to grow meat vats, which we would want to give those to. Some races reproduce non-biologically, so they use robotic machinery. They've forgotten how to breed, which sounds absolutely terrible because that's my favorite part of the whole process. I don't know about alien races, but the breeding is the best part of getting children. But anyways, some races don't breed biologically, and so if they don't, if they breed non-biologically, this is not going to benefit them, but anybody that does breed biologically, so that's going to be the bugs, that's going to be the burlests, they would do well by this because this allows them to increase their birth rates because they can allow themselves to eat better. And so increasing their birth rates, they have larger armies, they have larger armadas, everything ties together in this game. I think it's tough with Weekly Indie Newcomer. I keep these short so that you can take a look at the game. You've seen the combat right now. I've given you a little bit of a dip into the early game. And so the embarrassing thing right here is that with 10 hours worth of gameplay, I couldn't explain everything. Rest assured, this is a deeply, deeply complicated game. So I'm going to go down and do my pros and cons right now because we're out of time, and there's not a whole lot more that I can do about this. I think that with respect to The Last Federation, this is a very, very good, very, very unique game. If you're into anything like Europa Universalis, but you wish that it had a manual combat system, or if you're into anything like Crusader Kings, this is the game for you. Seriously, go get the game right now. If you're into manipulation, if you're into military, there's a little less military here, but it makes up for it by having an RPG combat system where you can fight the enemy and actually throw your lot in with the factions that you like. And so in a certain respect, this is almost like watching your favorite teams play football, or watching them play rugby, or watching them play hockey, in that you watch the galaxy develop and you do your best to kind of help the factions you like. You inject steroids into the factions you like so that they can beat the ones you don't like. And so this is a tremendously complicated game where everything is interwoven. Every action you take will set off a ripple that will affect other factions. Every little thing that you do has massive implications on the way the game is going to play out, and you will never see the same thing happen twice. This is one of those games where there's not a lot of cons here. The only cons that I would say is the inaccessibility of the game. This is a game that you are going to spend a lot of time staring at menus, figuring out what's going on, and just getting a feel for it. Once you've got a feel for what all these little menus and everything do, you can focus yourself fully on combat and not really have to worry about them other than just like checking on little things as you run around doing your machinations. So for example, what I would be doing right now in this game is I would probably go and I would liberate the Boreans next, because they tend to be pig-headed and stubborn, but they're not necessarily, they're warlike, but they only fight in self-defense. So I would go for them next, because they don't have a beef with the Andorians, because they don't agree ideologically. The Andorians are humanists, these guys are militarists, tribalists, and these guys right here are isolationists. And so none of these three guys have conflicting interests, whereas the Skylaxians do. The Skylaxians want to incorporate everybody else into a federation just like we do. They want everybody else to get along democratically. And so if they can't force you to be if they can't convince you to be democratic, they're going to force you to be democratic. And so they're going to be expansionist in kind of basically they're going to try and be nice, but if they can't be nice, they're going to fall back on warlike tactics very, very quickly. And they're going to try and expand the empire, basically. So I want to find all the factions, knowing what their predispositions are, that are going to kind of come together, and they're going to hate each other a little bit less. And so in doing that, you're increasing your chances of making a federation later on in the game that is a bit more cogent and has less enemies from the inside. Now, what happens once you create a federation? Well, let's say that we've defeated all of our enemies, except for one or two. We've created a federation, and everybody is in it, everybody's happy. Well, the second you create a federation, everybody else in the galaxy is like, whoa, 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 you've made an alliance? And you're going to see them start to make alliances very quickly, and kind of World 1-esque It's not like World War I, because World War I, the treaties were already in place, but what you're going to see is everybody else in the galaxy is going to panic. The second that you make a federation with like 4 planets, the other 5 are going to panic, and they're going to all ally, regardless of hating each other. They're going to ally overnight, just terrified of what's going to happen here. And then from there, you can plant rebellions in the middle of their territory. You can have terrorists attack their buildings, and they're going to be doing the same thing to you. So basically, it's going to be kind of a Cold War situation where you're constantly fighting proxy wars all over the place, looking for weak spots so that you can finally isolate and invade everybody, bombarding planets, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's, with regards to pros, this is a very deep game. The combat system is rewarding, entertaining. Every time you play the game, you get different abilities. And so you know those super abilities I was deploying? You get different ones of those every time you play the game, which kind of change the way that you fight. And you may get a group that are just terrible so that you can't really fight. And so you're actually going to fall back on diplomacy. It's incredibly deep. It's incredibly robust. This is a masterwork by Arcen Games. I mean, as far as I really loved AI Wars and thought it was a very good game, Arcen, I wasn't a huge fan of that platforming, A Valley Without Wind, that they did, but at the same time I could see it for being very unique. This, in my opinion, is their masterwork. The Last Federation is the game that Arcen has done that will define their work from here on out, and it's unfortunate that it hasn't gotten any attention from anyone. This is a brilliant, brilliant strategy game, and if you like anything like Europa Universalis, if you like anything like what's the name of the game? Iron Hearts or something like that. I forget the name of the game. You guys will know it if you're into those sorts of games. Crusader Kings, any game that's more about wheeling and dealing than actually taking combat actions, you will enjoy this game. This game is called The Last Federation. It's made by Arcen Games. My name is Splattercat. I wholly endorse this game. I've had a blast with it so far. It is a really, really good game. I'll see you guys next time. Take care out there, everybody. This is Weekly Indie Newcomer, where I talk about an indie game that has struck my fancy over the last couple weeks. If you're new to the channel, please stick around, like, subscribe. I do this every Friday, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.